following video review contains blurred video and audio because we're not allowed to talk about all aspects of the game until it comes out. So check back for the full review on Sunday, November 20th. The Legend of Zelda has gotten into the habit of repeating its mistakes. Recent iterations to this beloved franchise have suffered from unnecessary padding, problematic overworlds, and predictable progression. Skyward Sword does little to alleviate these issues, and compounds them with irksome controls that have a propensity to be unresponsive during the most inopportune times. It's a shame the same issues reared their heads again, but almost everything surrounding those sour points is quite enjoyable. Expertly crafted dungeons present you with a wide variety of clever puzzles, and a wealth of collectibles should keep you occupied for dozens of hours. Although Skyward Sword commits many of the same errors of previous Zelda games, it provides enough enticing content to keep you hooked. There's a strong narrative component in Skyward Sword that grabs hold of you from the opening moments. Link and Zelda spend time together as a story is set in motion, and though the protagonist is once again silent, there's a charming rapport between the characters nonetheless. When Zelda disappears, her predicament is just as intriguing as Link's own, urging you forward to see how this intricate ballet plays out. The villains and supporting characters aren't quite as interesting, but the lure of seeing how the fate of these two heroes plays out does a great job of pushing you through to the end. The act of playing doesn't go quite as smoothly. As soon as you find yourself in a fight, you can tell that something is amiss with the controls. Link's sword movement mirrors the flick of your own wrist, and this allows you to perform precise strikes that hone in on an enemy's weak points. And though this opens the door for exciting combat possibilities, there are problems holding it back. The most glaring issue is that you can frequently avoid precise attacks and waggle your way to victory instead. Many of the tougher foes can be stunned with one sword strike or shield parry, and once reeling, you can flail away at them by just shaking your hand to and fro. Of course, there are certain enemies that require you to swing a specific way, but new problems are introduced in these fights. Your sword does not always perform the appropriate move. This is especially true when you thrust your arm forward to pull off a jab. Link frequently does a slash instead, or just stands there motionless. And it's maddening when you watch your life drain because the game doesn't do as you command. Furthermore, there's one control quirk that is just baffling. When aiming at the screen, the sensor often goes haywire, forcing you to recenter by hitting down on the D-pad. If this crops up in the heat of battle, watch out, because it can derail your fun in a hurry. Thankfully, the dungeon design is strong enough to make questing exciting, although things are a bit predictable. There are 7 dungeons in Skyward Sword, and though they rarely get difficult, the puzzle design is always quite good. Franchise staples, such as torch lighting and box moving, are kept to a minimum here, replaced by a bevy of new situations that should cause you to stop and ponder for a few minutes before deciphering what to do. As before, you find an item to help you through each dungeon, but puzzles aren't nearly as reliant on this one tool as previous games. Instead, you have to use your entire assortment of items, and it's fun rummaging in your sack to figure out exactly what you need to progress. Bosses are an absolute thrill in Skyward Sword, combining fast-paced combat with tricky puzzles you have to solve on the fly. These extraordinary creatures have a variety of elaborate designs, and it's a joy to run around the arena fending off attacks until you discover their weak points. And even then, you have to be smart with your actions because 1 or 2 mistakes could spell your doom. When you're not plundering ancient tombs, there's an entire world waiting to be explored. The overworld hides secrets to get you searching every nook and cranny. Villagers are eager to give you tasks, and the rewards for doing so are good enough to make you dive into each opportunity. The quests themselves are of varying quality. carrying pumpkins is quite lame, for instance, while delivering a love letter opens up interesting side story. However, there are some issues with this aspect. First, flying around the world is slow, so getting from one place to another isn't much fun. Second, though there are many islands populating the sky, few house anything worthwhile. Because of these problems, Skyward Sword's overworld isn't among the best in the series, though it's still exciting seeing everything it has to offer. As fun as it is to solve puzzles and explore the world, Skyward Sword falls into a predictable rut early on. You repeat the pattern of fetch quest dungeon so many times that it often feels as if you're just going through the motions, and this is compounded by repeatedly visiting the same areas. You have to travel to each of the first 3 locations on 3 separate occasions, which begins to feel like unnecessary padding as you get later in the game. The most egregious instance of padding happens towards the end. The good elements still outweigh the bad in Skyward Sword, creating another engrossing experience in the venerable series. However, the formula is beginning to show its age. There aren't enough new ideas introduced in Skyward Sword to separate it from its predecessors, and the few additions are of mixed results. Item Upgrade does at least provide tangible rewards for your collecting habit, letting you craft more powerful shields, tools, and even potions if you find yourself overwhelmed by the enemies. But even with these bright spots, Skyward Sword still feels like a nostalgic retread. Those yearning for something new will be disappointed, but anyone thirsty for another exciting adventure will find plenty to enjoy here.